Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Have you ever felt like you were living between two worlds? One, maybe where you actually were raised and brought up and came from, and another where you're going and what you're building? Or maybe a world where you are physically seen, but you are not actually heard, where you feel you don't matter and you're invisible. We're going to be exploring this today, breaking barriers. We're going to be talking about truly being able to listen with my fabulous guest, Maria Gallucci, who is joining us today. And she is also one of our team members. I want to give a shout out to her because she's an elevated listener and she's also starting with her own television show. She's an author. She's a top 1% of all realtors. She's a broker and she is someone who is fluent in American Sign Language. Let's welcome her to the program. Hello, Maria. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
Thanks for taking the time. I want our audience to know that you and I met in person at a conference, and you were sent to us and to the conference by Mickey Mickelson and Creative Edge. So shout out to Mickey and his team. And I was really taken with you. You have this presence about you, and you have this aura about you that I immediately felt drawn in. And I would think that that really helps. Has anyone ever told you that before?
They have, and I think it's from just being raised as a CODA, which is a child of a deaf adult, which showed us to have more empathy and have like a little bit better like communication skills. Because most of my life, I felt like I had one foot in the deaf world and one foot in the hearing world. So as a child, I didn't realize that I was learning one of the most important like leadership skills, because that's how you bridge the gaps between people who experience the world like they experience it differently.
Absolutely. And thank you for being so forthright and sharing that with us. You are very successful in your career, and yet you have had this background growing up with your parents and then learning American Sign Language that enables you to take your skill set to a whole other level. And I think that's really important. I want to focus on it because many of us have the ability, the capability to fully hear and comprehend, but we actually don't listen. And many times we have no compassion and no empathy, and it's all about us and getting done whatever it is that we have on our priority list. So when did you realize that this skill set that you have for being able to engage with people would actually help people find homes?
I think when I noticed that as a young child, just noticing the communication barriers that my parents had faced and how people don't really listen or see what they need. So I think that I learned at a very young age that communication isn't just about talking, it's about understanding people. And that shaped my leadership style, because great leaders, they listen before they lead, and people want to feel valued and heard.
I agree with that. Thank you. What are some of the body language images that resonate with you that you can tell if someone is totally present?
They're engaging and like with eye contact. Like eye contact is very important to me. Like it's hard for me to communicate with anybody who has sunglasses on, and I've always had that because in sign language we talk with our expressions and our hands, and so for me I have to be able to see them, and I feel like if they're looking at you instead of looking away, then they're listening. And when they like respond to you, because some people are on their phone, or you could tell they have checked out of the conversation. And so I think that for me, it's easy for me to notice if people are listening or not, because we have to do that in sign language, because we're watching with our hands.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because there are many people around the world who believe they can multitask. So they can actually listen to what you're saying, but they're typing on their computer, they're on their phone, they're watching TV. And I know myself that since I teach people elevated listening, this is not possible. And I think the same thing when people are wearing sunglasses. You don't know where they're actually looking, or if they're even paying attention to what you're saying. So I personally will always take my sunglasses off. I think it's etiquette and manners. But how do you handle people who are multitasking and not giving you their undivided attention?
I think I always say, "Hey, I'm here. Are you listening to me?" I just come out and ask, like, because they're clearly. I mean, I know that we can multitask sometimes, but it is hard to listen to somebody who has a story, or if you're trying to have a conversation, and that makes you, well, it makes me at least feel like I'm not important or valued if they're not actually present and listening to what I'm saying.
Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, which is we all want to feel that we are important. And if someone just gives us a small amount of attention, maybe that's all we need in that moment. But I want to go on to the fact that you are an author and your book cover is behind you, Raised in Silence. And I want to bring up your Amazon link as well so that people can go there. What is it that motivated you to write this book?
I wanted to make people feel like they belonged and that they were included. So for me, I wrote it to have awareness to people, because I think that a lot of us don't know. And then my motto has always been just try, because I feel like if you're just trying, which I feel like a lot of us don't, because everyone's always afraid of the unknown. And so people don't approach things because they're scared of either rejection or saying or doing something wrong. And so for me, I wrote the book so people can know that it's okay to be different, and it's okay to try with people and just make people feel like they belong.
And I believe that if each of us did that, we'd have a lot more peace in the world, peace in our hearts, and compassion. So bravo to you for writing that book. And when people read the book, what are one or two things you want them to take away aside from what you just shared?
Um, I want them to take away that we all communicate differently. All of us do. And then we all feel different at times. But I think if it starts with us, how to make people feel included and make them not feel isolated. So for me, I just want them to take away that it's okay to try, and it's okay to make people feel like they belong, and that they're in your life and seen and heard.
Yes, and we have the Amazon link on the screen. So please do click on that link and order your copy of Maria's book, Raised in Silence. Maria, one thing that you just hit on that I think is so important. It's all right, folks. It's live TV and these things happen, right? We just roll with it. StreamYard just here I am. I'm back again. One thing I wanted to bring up is your point about fear. Many times we are so afraid to think something, to do something, to make an attempt at something that we become paralyzed by fear. And it's interesting because when we look at the fact that life is limited in this lifetime, we only have so much time to do what it is we want to do. But yet, how much time we spend thinking about what if I do this? What if I do that? So I want to talk now about the fact that not only did you grow up in a home where your parents had challenges with hearing and you had to adapt, but you are thriving. And not only are you thriving, but you are certainly communicating to the world that it's okay to be different. It's okay to stand on your own 2 feet and say, you know what? Maybe I'm not like everybody else, but that's kind of boring. I am who I am. What do you have to say about that?
I think that many of us thinks that there's challenges, especially growing up in the deaf and the hard of hearing community. And I think for me, it's breaking down barriers, because we all have barriers, and it isn't about knocking down all the walls. It's about building bridges. And so my entire life has been spent helping people understand one another, whether it's between the deaf and hard of hearing communities, or buyers or sellers, or businesses and clients. And so I think simply one human being to another, like, I think if we just help them, because the greatest barrier isn't language or culture. It's assuming that someone else's experience isn't the same as ours. And the moment we become curious and truly listen, I feel like it starts to disappear, make them feel like they do belong.
Maria, you just hit on the word, which is assumptions. We assume all kinds of things. If you've ever been in a relationship and someone didn't call, you assume the worst. They're in the hospital. You go through various scenarios of why they're not calling, but yet maybe the answer is simple, that they just don't want to talk to us, and they don't want to be friends with us. Or we assume that someone's not going to like us, or that we're not going to fit in. And so what are some things, when you think about the show, we're on iconic women, what are some behaviors that you have observed that have helped you to realize, I'm going to stand as I am right now. I am empowered and empowering just the way I am?
I think we were made fun of a lot as children, because our parents were different, and so we weren't the normal, as they would say, family, because we grew up with the deaf community. So for us, I always saw my parents get isolated. I always saw us get isolated and made fun of. And I've stuttered my entire life, so I was made fun of for stuttering. And so I think for me, when my dad had told me, that's their issue, not yours, and so don't let that shape you. And so I think for me, that made me more resilient, and know that I'm never going to let someone else feel the way we did growing up.
Very powerful words from your father. I really like them. We have the option. I always feel every day that we wake up, we have an option to make a choice, and we can choose which path we go down. So we can choose a path of compassion, empathy, knowing that we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but if you don't try, like your motto, just try, you might be living the rest of your life wondering, what if?
Mm-hmm.
When did you learn American Sign Language? Because I think this fits in perfectly, because it's something we could all learn. I could learn it myself, right? Why not have more of us learn American Sign Language? When did you decide to do this? And is it something that anyone really can do?
So ASL, which is American Sign Language, is actually my first language, and so English is my second. So my mom said that we learned how to speak from the TV, and just because there's six of us hearing children, and obviously we went to speech therapy and counseling. So ASL is actually my first language. So when my son was going to take it for a language class, I thought, oh, that this is going to be perfect. He'll pass. He'll get straight A's, because he's always been a straight A student. And when I helped him take the test, I actually flunked it. So I was like, so that was like the first F he ever got. Thank God the teacher let him redo it. But because I learned it, and so for me, I'm fluent in it, and it's my first language, but to actually be taught it, and everything evolves and changes, even English does. And so some of the signs were so different. And so when I was watching him like learn it, I'm like, oh wow, like I'm thankful that I already know it, because anybody can learn it, and they have online classes, but it was a little bit hard for me to try to be taught it because it was my first language, so I already knew it.
So it's an interesting scenario that you just shared. So for your son, it was challenging. So probably for the rest of us, if we didn't grow up with it, it would be challenging. But that doesn't mean it's a reason not to do it, right? It doesn't mean that you should say, well, it's too hard, I don't want to do it. And that's something that we do quite often in life. It's going to be so difficult. Nah, I don't think so. I'm just going to stay in my little comfort zone right here doing what it is that I'm doing. But when you learn to do something to be more inclusive so that you are there for more people, I think that's a beautiful thing. What are your thoughts?
I do too. And I think just learning the simple words like thank you or I love you. So just the simple words to put in effort out there, because I think that everybody, one act of kindness, and I've always said this my entire life, can change their entire day. And so you don't know what they're going through that day. So just a basic sign, if you know that they're deaf or hard of hearing, goes a long way with them, and they feel like you're making an effort to try with them.
Absolutely. And Maria, I want to talk a little bit, since our show is also about breaking barriers and leadership. If you think of any person who's in a leadership role, you could even be in your family, you're in the leadership role. We have to understand our audience. We have to understand where people are coming from. And although that might sound like a daunting and lifelong process, it's really not. You understand what's important to someone, what their values are, and how we can bring value to them. How does that work in the real estate market?
I think for me it helps because I sold homes. Built a business, written a book. But so success for me is knowing that I've helped people feel seen, heard, and valued. And so leadership isn't about having all of the answers. It's about being willing to learn and keep showing up for people or your employees. And so I think that some of the strongest leaders I've met aren't the ones speaking the most. They're the ones that are helping others find their voice and listening to them and seeing what they need for themselves. And I think that that's what I bring to my business, and I have for over 30 years.
How did you get started in real estate?
So my parents, I was 12 years old. My parents were buying their first home. And so I went to the closing with them thinking that, oh, they're going to buy a house. It's going to be so exciting. When we got there, and they had no interpreter at all. And so they were giving them the paperwork that I didn't even understand. And you could tell that my parents were struggling, not like, because it's hard. Everybody can, you can read stuff, but if you're actually explained to it in your language, it's different. And so I jumped in and started helping them sign all the papers, and was trying to explain what my 12-year-old mind can explain. And so I just remember leaving that way, or leaving that closing thinking, I'm never going to let anybody feel like that again. And so for me, I've always just made it. And I just realized doing that I loved real estate and finances.
I really admire that. Just something that popped into my mind when I met you at that conference where I was a keynote speaker. The night before, the entire conference was in another language, and I wasn't prepared for that. And they were passing the microphone around for each person to, I assume, get up and introduce themselves. And I was in the front row, and it came to me, and I just stood up and said, I'm really sorry, but I only speak English. And some people laughed, but other people were kind of looking at me. And in that moment, I thought, wow, I feel like an outsider. And not only that, I feel bad that I don't understand what people are saying. So it's kind of like a two-pronged thing. Like, I'm not bringing any value, and I don't understand. And that was not a good place to be in. So for people who are communicating differently, I think I mentioned to you, my mother lost her hearing. She lost her hearing in one ear, and she lost her vision in one eye, the opposite sides. And so sometimes I would walk around with my eyes closed just to see what that experience was like. It was really terrifying, actually. And so I think that we have to be more aware of the fact that we may all be different, but we have the opportunity to show empathy and compassion.
And I think being raised between two worlds, it was challenging at times, but it also taught me adaptability and empathy and leadership, because it is very isolating. And I know that a lot of deaf or hard of hearing kids feel isolated, especially if their parents don't know AASL. And so that as well is very challenging. And it doesn't feel good to feel like an outsider. And so that's another reason why for me, I'm like, I don't want anybody to ever feel like that. And that's why I've always made it my mission to try to make everybody feel like safe, and that they belong and not just an outsider.
And I think an important point from what you're just saying is that even though if someone is unable to see or they're unable to hear, they want to feel seen and heard. And that is possible maybe with the smallest touch, the smallest attention, just saying, I'm here for you in whatever way you can communicate that, to let people know that they're safe. And I think that's what we all really want, is to know that we are safe and that we are heard. So for people who are out there right now, there might be people actually living in conflict zones where they don't feel safe. And there could be people living in huge mansions, in abusive relationships. There's all kinds of scenarios. But what are one or two things that you've experienced where you know a person knows they're actually not safe?
I think I can read body language very well. And so because that's how we communicate, is expression and body language. And so I think that if I can tell that someone's like not in a safe space, or feel like they don't belong in there, I always go up to them and ask them, hi, how's it, how was your day? I'll give them a compliment, because I think that once you approach them, and if something is wrong, if they feel open to you, they will communicate that they're not safe. It all starts with us, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know myself, and I've always been like this, and I'm still like this. I am a nervous wreck going to any kind of networking function. I would be literally sweating. It'll be running down my back. I might have to go to the bathroom and put my wrists under the cold water, because I just feel so uncomfortable. And I started realizing, well, why is it I feel uncomfortable? Because I feel like everyone's looking at me. And the truth is, no one cares. Like, when you walk into a room, you feel like, everyone's looking at you. But really, no one cares. Everyone's into their own scenario. And so I think having that perspective now, I'm much more compassionate and understanding that even though something might not resonate with someone else, like what I just said, people might be like, you crazy. It's no big deal. You go to a function, but you start to realize you don't know what someone is experiencing. You don't know what just happened to them, what's in their mind. And that's sort of the beginning that I started with. Sometimes we live in two worlds, meaning we show up here today, right? You and I are here today. We're dressed, we're ready to go. But that doesn't mean that everything in our life is perfect. That doesn't mean because we're here having this conversation that we're 100%. And so I think that we need to be conscious and conscientious of giving people grace and understanding. And so I want to move back into the real estate industry, because that can be very cutthroat. And sometimes there's not a lot of compassion and empathy between buyers and sellers. So how do you walk that line?
I think because I've been doing it for so long, and my communication skills have already been to listen and to see what they want. So for me, I always tell everybody, and I've told my kids this: always put yourself in their shoes. Always look at the perspective of them. And so for me, when I'm talking to a buyer or seller, I think that's how I negotiate too, and try to talk them both into, you guys have to look at the other side of things on both of them. And I think that helps a lot, because communication is huge in real estate, especially because it's one of the biggest decisions ever to buy or sell a home. So for me, I always say, well, look at their point of view. And I always tell the buyers, look at their point of view. And then you mostly meet in the middle.
Absolutely. And I think that there's some life lessons to be learned from that, because if you think about it, we don't know what the motivation is for someone to buy or sell. We don't know if it's a financial situation, it could be a divorce situation, it could be outgrowing the home, whatever it is. And it's the same thing with life. When we look at our home, for example, we might say, my home is absolutely beautiful. I did this to it and that to it. And someone else walks into it and goes, this place is a mess. I'm not interested in this. But it's the same thing about who we are and the values that we have. We might be like, wow, I built this business, or I did this to my hair, or whatever the case is. And someone else looks and goes, yeah, I don't actually see that. We don't necessarily need to have that feedback. We can have our own opinion, but we don't have to share it that way. And I think that's the perfect example when you think about buying or selling a home. We don't have to walk into someone's home and go, this place is disgusting or needs a whole overhaul. It can be, this is somebody's home. Somebody lives here. And so think about what we're putting out into the world, our opinions, our ideas, social media, when people are posting things that are filled with so much hate. Let's revisit how we're coming across. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I agree, because I personally don't ever give negative feedback, because I don't want to put the negative out there, and it truly does hurt the seller's feelings. And so I always tell them from the very beginning, you might get negative feedback. I know it's your house, and love it, but not everyone is going to love it. So if you want me to send you over the feedback, you're going to have to be willing to just take it with a grain of salt, and like don't be offensive to it. So if something's on the buy side of it, if something's really wrong with the house, I'll just call the agent and just say, oh, that's what they didn't like about it, but they liked this stuff. But there's some agents that give me really bad feedback, and it's so mean, and I'm like, okay, I feel so bad giving this to the seller. But so for me, I try not to do the negative feedback, but I do warn them at the beginning that sometimes I know you love the house, but everybody likes something different. So it's not you and it's not your house. So don't take it personal.
And I think that there's another life lesson to be learned from that, which is, if you think about, you meet someone, and whether it's a potential romantic interest or a business partner or just a new friend, maybe you don't like everything about them. Maybe you don't like their job or what they're wearing, but we look for the positives. And if there aren't enough positives, then we say to ourselves, okay, something feels like it's not in alignment. I don't know if this is going to work. But we don't have to, by the way, you're this. We just say, it's not a good fit. And it's the same thing in the real estate industry. Maybe that property's just not the right fit for you, and it's okay. We don't have to take it down to bare bones, so to speak, and rip the seller or their buyer apart. So I feel like that's also a good part of leadership, where we look at the best attributes. What is it that I can effectively get this person to do that they're going to love? It's going to be a passion for them, and they're going to excel at it.
I agree with that. And that's why I remember one time I went to this house. I was on the buy side, and it was like awful. It had like rat poop paper. It was really, really, really bad. And so I was thinking, and then I started saying, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a good one. It looks like a lot of work. Well, she loved the house, and she actually bought the house, and fixed it all up the way she wanted. So for me, I always try to not do that. And so for leadership, to me, I think it's you always have to just be kind. I always just say that, if you're just kind and sweet. And that's why for me, because I was made fun of and everything, I have a really big heart. So I never want to try to make somebody feel bad. And so for me, I always try to give positive feedback. And that helps. As a leader, you should be showing the best self and not do bad reviews or bad feedback. Of course, people might need something like, you have to correct this, but you did good on this way. So I never just try to give like a negative thing. I always try to do positive, because you don't know what they're going through either, and how it's going to affect their heart and their mind.
Absolutely. And one kind comment can really change someone's day. I want to just talk about that example you gave with the house, which I really appreciate. I remember back before the pandemic, I was running a store on eBay, and I was running 60 auctions a week, just like looking around my home, be like, oh, how about this? I'll sell this. And I'm thinking, no one's ever going to buy this because this is broken or this is worn out. And people bought all of it. And so the point is, you don't know what someone else is interested in buying or what's going to resonate. And I would say to someone, do you realize that XYZ is broken? You know what? I always dreamed of having this, and I'll take broken and I'll see if I can fix it. And I think that's the same thing with homes that need work. Some people really look at it as a challenge, or old cars. People think, let me see if I can rehab this. So don't assume that you know what someone else is willing to pay or what it is that someone is motivated by, because we don't actually know. It could be my grandfather had a car like that, and I always wanted it, so let me fix it up. So I want to just celebrate the fact that not only are you doing your real estate work and your sign language and your inclusivity and your work as an author, but you have now joined our team, and your first show is going to be on Friday. So what is it that you're passionate about or excited about doing a TV show?
Spreading awareness. And I mean, I know the book and everything, but if you get, I think, as much as you can out there about, because it's very, very important to me to be inclusive, like that's like one of my heart thing. And I think that if there's one thing that I want everyone to remember is, don't wait until you feel ready. Like, most of us grow out of our biggest opportunities, whether it's starting a business or writing a book, or even changing careers. So I think that speaking up for yourself and just trying is one small step that can change everything. So for me, I just want to be able to help people feel like they are in a good space and that they belong.
We're thrilled to have you. And I do want to share the show graphic. That's what she said with Maria Gallucci. Congratulations. What is it that motivated you to put together this title? Because we ran through a number of titles. What do you want the audience to take away from the title?
So it's kind of funny as well because of The Office. And then when you and I actually were going through titles, I had said, oh, that's what she said, like, meaning you. And then it just like clicked. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that is what the title needs to be. And then now, if I feel like, you know how you're going to buy like a red car and then you see red cars everywhere. So now I could hear everybody like saying it, walking around, because some people were saying it yesterday too. I'm like, oh, that's the name of my show. So I think it's very catchy, and it's just like fun, I think.
I agree with you. It is definitely catchy and it's definitely fun. I'm just going to bring it up again so that people can see it. So the show is actually going to be every Friday, and it's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is 4 p.m. British Summer Time. You're actually in the Mountain Time Zone, correct?
Yes. Yep. So it's 9 a.m. Mountain Time.
9 a.m. Mountain Time. So I'm really looking forward to that. And as we do the show together, we'll be interviewing various guests. And then ultimately, you probably will be taking the show off on your own and taking it to whatever direction. We never know. But it is really an amazing opportunity to be able to create a legacy of education. And so I just want to thank you personally for taking this journey with us.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I think we'll be able to change lives. And that's what I want.
I do too. And so as we're getting ready to close out our show today, who would you like to contact you, and what's the best way for them to do that?
My website is galluccihomes.com. And then for the book, it's on all of the Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all the book platforms, and that's raisedinsilence.com.
Okay, we are showing your book right now on Amazon. As you mentioned, it is available also in bookstores. And then your website, which we did have up for people who are going to be listening to this on a podcast platform later, it is Gallucci, GALLUCCI Homes, HOMES.com. And we also have your Facebook, which is here as well. So please do feel free to connect with Maria. Maria, as we close out, what would you like to leave the audience with when it comes to understanding that we're all different, but yet we all have the choice to be inclusive. We make that choice to be kind.
Yeah, I think that we don't have to be perfect, but if we just try, it makes a big difference, and you don't know how many lives you can change by doing that.
Very well said. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here. We look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Thank you.
Bye. I'm closing out the show today just asking you to look into the kindness of your heart. Think about children. I know when I go to the gym where I work out, there are so many little kids. I'm not used to being around kids, but they have this curious wonder. They're looking around and mommy this and mommy that. And they're just like a sponge. They just want to know everything. And at some point in our lives, someone tells us, stop doing that. Go to your room. You're not good enough. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying at that moment, I think that childlike wonder disappears. And so as adults, we have the ability to bring that back. We don't have to go to our room. We don't have to stand in the corner. We don't have to do all these things we might have had to do when we were younger. We have the ability to say, you know what? I know you look different. I look different. You speak differently. You come from a different place, but I want to learn about you. And that is why I do this television network, because I'd love to welcome people from all over the world. I love to hear their stories. And you have the option to do that too. Every day, choose to be kind, choose to be compassionate, because you would want the same thing for yourself. Thank you again for being here. We're going to close out today with a brand new sponsorship from one of our team members, Mr. Red O'Loughlin. He's written a book called Aging Sucks, and it's coming out on July 3rd. Let's take a look.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.